we're making in biscuits. So we're gonna get some carrots here, peeled and diced, some onions and garlic. Pretty basic stuff. You know, if you wanted to do a straight mirepoix, which would be 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, 1 part celery, that would work too. I'm not very partial to celery. I am not much of a fan. I think it works in certain dishes and certain applications, but I do think the French overuse it. And that's my humble opinion. I think it has its places where it absolutely cannot be substituted, like in a stuffing. You can, like, a stuffing has to have celery in it, in my opinion. Like, it's just one of the quintessential parts of it. So as with everything we do, we want to try and cut things to the size, same size. So I've actually cut this a little small. This is about the size that we want because we're going to be putting peas in it. So we want about that size of a dice on the carrot. Now let's try to keep it pea-sized. We're just going to dice this up real nice. We're going to get all these batons, as it were, or juliennes, whatever you want to call them. Technically, they'd be batons, not juliennes, but, you know, we're not being technical here, so it doesn't really matter. And usually, again, if you've watched my stream before, I almost always cut the onions in what's called the French cut. This is one of the few times where I'm actually going to dice it because I think it makes an aesthetic difference, especially when we're using diced carrots. I think it just looks kind of odd. It doesn't change the flavor, of course. It doesn't change how anything cooks or anything, but it's just a little weird. So I don't know how much onion I'm going to get out of this thing. Looks kind of raggedy, but, you know, yeah, it is. I was going to say you should never judge a book by its cover, but in this instance, I was right. So let's kind of all that nasty. There we go. Yeah, no, just sometimes onions rot a little bit. It just is what it is. You buy them that way, can't control it. It's a root vegetable. They just do it. It's not a big deal. Luckily, they're like dirt cheap. So I don't know if we're going to need another onion. This still might be enough. I might dice another half. We'll see once I kind of have this. So we're going to do, it's a couple different ways you can cut an onion. I'll show you the classic French way, and I'll show you the faster way. So the classic French way is basically you cut kind of like lines here, and then you cut lines here. And then to make the dice, you just cut like that. So that's what we're going to do. So cut it here through, and we don't cut all the way through. We cut right to the root. I mean, you'll notice when I cut the onion, I leave the root on so that it doesn't fall off. And we use the bend of the knife here to kind of slice. The more surface we have, the more surface we have, the sharper it cuts. So this curve here is actually makes it so that it cuts better. So you'll see I'm going in with like the base. Maybe you can see. How would you see? So you see I'm going in with the base, and then I kind of like turn the knife, like turn the knife like that, and then the curve is really through. So I'm not really using any pressure. Granted, I have a super sharp knife, but it's that curve that really cuts it. So you want to just kind of move it a little bit. All right, so now we're getting it in to the juliennes, basically. We're trying to make it into juliennes. Whenever we dice, we're just trying to make everything into those matchstick size things. So we got that. Now we're going to dice it. And there you go. It's your diced onion. So that's the classic French way of dicing an onion, which is very, very good. Nothing wrong with it. It is a bit of a pain in the butt. It does take a couple extra steps. And when you're making home-cooked food like chicken and biscuits, it is fairly unnecessary. Again, in my opinion. So here's the faster way. I'm going to take the root off like that. Cut in, just take that square off. If you're feeling cheap, you can cut those into little like chops. It's not really a dice. Now what I'm going to do There's a couple different ways you can do it here too, but I'm going to show you my fastest favorite way. I'm going to cut it. So we see the way an onion grows, right? So we want this to be a dice, right? So we're going to julienne it. So we're going to kind of cut in like this all the way around it to give us those juliennes. Now, again, this isn't going to be a perfect dice like these guys, but it is going to give us a nice, somewhat symmetrical cut. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And I'm still not cutting through the root, or I'm trying not to. And honestly, I didn't have to cut the root off for this one. I was thinking about doing a different one. So, but it's fine. And now we just cut right through there, just like that. And then for this end piece, you saw I just kind of cut into it, and now we just dice like that. And then there you go. There's a dice. Your diced onion, and it's fine. That's perfectly good for the type of food we're making. You know, it's home style. Excuse me, it doesn't need to be perfect. All right, now slice some garlic. If you wanted to, you could dice the garlic. For this, I almost always slice my garlic for a couple of different reasons. One, it doesn't burn as easy. And two, if somebody is like really has a problem with garlic, which happens every now and then, they can just easily pick it out. But more or less, the reason I do it is because I find it just doesn't burn as quick and as easy. You know, diced minced garlic, that stuff burns so fast. So I'm gonna peel the skin off here, just like that. So a little bit of pressure on the knife kind of breaks the skin off, and then it just peels right off. You don't have to smash it, just give it a little pop, as it were. Now we're just gonna slice them. Very fast and easy. So there you go. All right, so that's that. Now, before we sear our chicken thighs, I don't know, there's certain dishes that don't traditionally call for it. Excuse me. But I feel like almost all Southern food does better with bacon. So we're going to put some diced bacon in here. Half, and then I cut that half in half, and we're going to do these like mini, almost lardone type slices. Again, I want to be somewhat similar in size to everything else. It just adds a layer of refinement that it's just nice. Takes really no extra time, and you should treat yourself sometimes. Make your stuff a little nicer, right? So we're gonna add that in there. We're gonna let that render, and we're gonna cook the bacon until it's basically brown or borderline brown. Get this back in the fridge. God, I love the smell of bacon. So good. Let me grab out some other things. We need this, this, this. All right. Now, the only reason I'm using a whisk is because we're going to need it later, and I want to try not to dirty multiple utensils if I can avoid it. However, you got to be careful with whisks and porcelain pans because they will scratch them. So you want to, you don't want to really scrape with it. You want to use it as gently as you can. So while that's doing that, I'm going to add a little bit of butter. That'll help it brown a little bit faster here. You know, oil definitely cooks faster than just dry heat or even water because it's a higher temperature. So, adding a little bit of that definitely speeds things along. All right, so we're getting heated up there. Let's get our chicken out. I gotta adjust my cooler here a little bit. All right. I try to plan ahead, I promise. All right, let's get this stuff out of here so I can start cooking some chicken. Just gonna put this in a container on the side. We can mix it all together because it's all gonna cook at the same time and about the same rate. All right, so that's gonna go right here. Just got a little stir. And frankly, we're just gonna add the bacon right back into our mirepoix, or our almost mirepoix. All right, so we're gonna do, we got 8 portions here. So I'm thinking, so should I do 4 chicken breasts? So I'm gonna do 4 chicken thighs. That one's got some feathers on it. It's always the weird thing about chicken sometimes, right? Freaks you out. I think 4 is good. Because we'll do like 2 biscuits for each meal. That's fine. 1 chicken thigh per meal. That's good. Yeah. I feel good about that. All right, so let's get this excess skin off. Any excess fat we're gonna get off too. This bacon's done. You can see how it's brown nicely. So let's get a slotted spoon here. I'm gonna put it right into the onions and garlic and try and get it out of there before it burns. I don't know why I'm worried about the fat, but more important just to get the bacon out before it burns. All right, let's get this, and we're almost there. Yep. All right, a little bit more. Okay, that'll do. All right, so we're gonna keep that at the heat that it's at. You know, I was thinking, you know what I'm gonna do? Yeah, because I don't want this to take 3 hours, and I don't know why I wasn't thinking about the cook time on the chicken, but I wasn't, so that is what that is. But that's fine. It's no big deal. Luckily, we have a pressure cooker, so I'll just use it. All right, so that one's trimmed. Let's get this one nice and trimmed. And just taking off the excess fat and all that. You know, we do like skin in this family, but not an overabundant amount. Let's get these. That's kind of gross, right? Oh, there's something about the feathers that always weird me out. Which is stupid, because like I know it's a dead animal. Like, I mean, I know it's like a living thing. Well, was a living thing. And in this case, grown in a factory farm probably, and treated like horse shit and probably only a couple of weeks old. That's depressing to talk about, right, when you're cooking food? Yeah, it kind of is. All right. So let's get these here. We're gonna season with some salt. Not really worried about pepper here. So get some nice healthy seasoning on this. Okay, just like that. And I really should have started this like an hour earlier. Oops. All right, sear the chicken. Right in the oil. Now you want to make sure you don't overcrowd it. And to be fair, I am pushing. But we do want to get it nice and brown, you know, develop some of those Maillard flavors. And while that does that, let's clean up a bit. So I'm actually going to put this away. That can stay out. And this can, that doesn't really matter. So one thing that I'm very adamant about not doing is wasting food. So this fat here, we're actually going to save it so that we can do stuff with it down the road. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to vacuum seal it and I'm going to freeze it. And then next time we make stock, I'm going to add it to the stock. And what that's going to do is it's going to render the fat. It's going to add some flavor to the stock as well, but it's going to basically render the fat. And then what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to be able to strain that fat out of the stock, clarify it, and then I'll have a fat to cook with. Or what I like to do, make tamales with that fat. So that's what we're going to do with that. So let me grab a vacuum sealed bag, which I just made. We're going to set the sealer to 30 seconds. We're going to put our fat right in there. If you have a vacuum sealer or are thinking about getting one, pro tip, always roll the top down so you don't get schmutz on where you want to seal. See? So this is going to go right in there. Just like that. Then it also gives you like a really nice handle there. You see how I can hold it? All right. All right. Now we're going to seal this guy. Then always label what you seal so you know what it is. Because who knows, in a month I'm not going to remember what this was. Oops. There we go. All right. Let's get this chicken cutting board out of here. This chickeny knife. Put all this away. Gonna turn up our pan just a touch. It's not browning quite as quick as I want. I don't want it to brown super fast, but I do want it to, it almost looks like it's boiling, you know what I mean? So we don't want that. All right, let's see where we're at. So that still needs a fair amount of time. All right. Chicken fat. What's the date? 12, 14, 21. Typically put years on it unless we're close to the end of the year or at the beginning of the year. But that's just that's a kitchen habit right there for you. So this is doing its thing. Really not a whole lot to do here except for let it sear, really. I want to get some really nice browning. So we're going to use our Instapot to cook this nice and quick. So I got the pan here. I'm going to turn this up just a hair more. No, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to leave it right at that medium high. So we're going to let that brown, and while that does that, I'll watch it on the monitor, and we'll play another game. Okay. Now I can check the chicken. Oh, now. Oh, it's perfect. It's perfect. All right, chicken flip. All right, and we're back. So For sake of brevity, all these good. We got browning on the pan. They're pretty awesome, if you ask me. All right, now we're gonna add all this goodness. Onions, carrots, and garlic. Stir that in nicely, and we're just going to cook this until it's soft and translucent, the onion that is. Remember, we're going to pressure cook this, so we only have to get it so cooked. So I thought I was going to need butter here, but I got to be honest, there's a ton of fat in this already. Let me clean this knife. Should probably clean the knife and cutting board. Oops. So that way I can cut this butter. All right. Let's wash this off here real quick. All right. There we go. Nice and clean. Let's get some butter. We're going to cut 2 tablespoons of butter. We're going to melt that in. This is going to be the base for our roux. Roux is the thickening agent for in this instance, for our gravy, which is basically what we're making. And yes, I know that looks like a lot of fat, but that's exactly what we want. So just letting that butter melt. And we're already where we need to be to make this roux, honestly. Gonna take a little bit of cooking wine, just some $2 white wine here. Whatever you can find. We use a Chardonnay just because it's cheap, and that's usually what you use in restaurants. A Chablis is also something you'd use. Kind of like you don't want anything with a ton of flavor. Honestly, I mean, like you want flavor, but you don't want a ton of oak or anything like that. So okay. So we're gonna add our flour. I find for a gravy, you usually want a 4-to-1 ratio liquid to roux. For a regular sauce, you're looking at a 1-to-8. So I'm just going to add this basically until it gets to the consistency that I want. You could measure it, but I'm not going to because I don't typically. All right, so that's about as thick as I want it. I don't want this thing to get any more thick. Also, the more you cook a roux, the less binding power it has. So we're going to cook this for about 3 to 5 minutes, I'd say, until it gets kind of like a blonde to a brown kind of color. We're not looking for a dark roux here, but we do want it cooked a bit. You have to cook a roux for at least a couple of minutes, a minimum of 2 minutes, I'd say. Otherwise, it's going to taste like raw flour, which is not pleasant. I forgot my beer. Let me go grab that. It's like drinking carbonated sour orange juice. It's actually really good. But it is it's not a lot of depth to it. I gotta say, it really does just taste like orange juice. I don't really get guava or passion fruit on it. I gotta be honest. But I don't think that's what they were going for. I think they were going for like one of those, like, honestly, it reminds me of like a cheap cocktail in Hawaii, like, that you get in the hotel lounge. It's kind of what it reminds me of, which are delicious when you're in Hawaii. And this does bring back some amazing memories of drinking neon blue cocktails. I wouldn't say they're the best I've ever had. All right, so we're getting there. It's starting to cook a little bit, but you can see it still hasn't really changed color. You can smell that the flour hasn't really toasted or anything, so we still have a bit of time here. We don't need to over stir it for sure. You know, just let it sit. I'm gonna put this flour away because we're definitely done with it by now. Any more flour? There's ain't nothing left. All right. Okay. So you can see it's starting to change color a little bit. Maybe you can. I don't know. I can see it. So it's starting to brown like so I can find a spot. So yeah, you can. It's changing color. So we're just gonna cook it just another minute or so more, and then we're gonna deglaze with the wine here. Now, the big thing you want to make sure you don't do is cause clumps. So when we deglaze with the wine, we're also going to add some water. So I don't want clumps. I do want the wine to evaporate, but that's going to happen naturally, even through the cooking process. You know, alcohol evaporates at not even boiling temps, but definitely at boiling temps, which we're going to do. We're going to bring this to boiling. So, all right, so I'm going to call that good. It's starting to brown just a hair. Now let's add some wine. About like that. We're going to mix this in immediately because I don't want clumps. And we're going to add water. And I might add more water, but again, I'm trying to avoid lumps. So I don't want this to cook too much without liquid. And see, look, it needs more water. Oh, quite a bit more water, actually. Now, if you're using chicken stock, you want to use that and not water. I'm using water because we have our homemade demi base. So look at that. Yeah, it's getting nice and thick. I'm not gonna add too much more water because, to be honest, I want this to be a bit thicker than I really want it because a lot of juice is gonna come out of the chicken, then out of the peas. You know, so I do want this to be fairly thick, definitely thicker than I would want it served at. Now, at that same time, though, remember the biscuits are also going to absorb a fair amount of moisture. So it's kind of like finding that fine line, you know? But it doesn't look like we have any lumps, which is amazing. While that heats up slowly, and at this point, you definitely want to heat it up slowly. You have starch in there. If you heat it up too fast, it's just going to burn. So we have to be patient and let it heat up slowly. Get a spoon, not that spoon. My least favorite spoon. This is my second favorite spoon. Now we're going to add some demi base. So just a couple of teaspoons here. Probably 4 or 5. I don't know. However many that was if you were counting. See what that looks like. And I think we're going to add a little bit more. Yeah, I'm just going to pour it in. There we go. That'll cut it. All right, so we're just going to let that come to a nice simmer, if you would. I need salt. It tastes pretty good. Ooh, one thing we're going to add, which I totally forgot. Typically, I add this when I'm doing like cooking the veggies, and I totally spaced on it. If you have fresh, this is even better. But we do not, at least we don't have an ample amount of fresh. We're going to add some thyme. So just about like that. Not a ton. Right there. What is that, like maybe a half a teaspoon? Some thyme, and we're going to add a couple of bay leaves. There they are. Add 2 bay leaves. And then at this point, I'm also going to add, or 3 bay leaves. And at this point, I'm going to add some pepper because it is an American dish, and Americans love their pepper. So we need to have that spice in it to make it taste somewhat traditional. And you can see here, it's already starting to simmer. There we go. And it's sticking just a hair. We see how that's like really nice and thick. It almost looks like country gravy. That's what we're going for. That's the thickness we want. So let's see where we're at here. It's good. We need a little bit more salt. Okay, let's see where that's at. And this is, of course, going to develop and change as it cooks. All right, that's pretty good. All right, that's good. It's boiling. So now what we're going to do, we're going to kill the heat. Don't need these anymore. We're going to bring, and we're basically just going to add, now we're just going to add this to here. Just like that. You know, scrape her in. Just like such. Technically, you could have just done this in the Instapot, but I find it, I don't know, at least the one I have, it doesn't sear great, and I just don't like the way it cooks. I don't like the even temperature and none of that. But you could do this in an Instapot technically, but to be honest, I don't like them for searing. I think this pot makes a much better apparatus, if you would, for what we're doing. All right, so I'm just stirring this slightly just so there's some gravy on the bottom here. Now, one of the things I do love about the Instapot is, even with a thick sauce like this, it shouldn't burn, or at least not too bad. So, okay. So we're going to put this in the Instapot. We're going to cook it for, I typically like to do about 5 to 10 minutes over whatever the meat time is for, like, well done. Or I guess, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm saying that right. So let's do that. Put that off. All right, so we're going for 35 minutes on the Instapot, and that should cook it so it falls off the bone real nice and easy. All right, so that means we got a couple of games in us. Once that comes out, we're then going to chill down the chicken just enough so we can handle it, pull it all apart, put it in the pan, put some biscuits on it. Oh, we're going to add the peas. Put some biscuits on it and bake it. Usually takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So we should be wrapped up here no later than 8:30, which is perfect. So, oh, it smells so good. All right. Let's see. Hopefully we don't have anything burnt. It's a little stuck to the bottom. It's okay, though. It'll be fine. Oh, it does smell a little burnt. Damn it. Well, that's because we had to do it quick. Yeah, it's a little scorched. So we want to make sure that we're not scraping the bottom to get all that burntness out of there. Let's do a quick taste. Make sure I didn't completely burn this. I mean, if I did, there's nothing we can do. Nope. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. So we just want to make sure we don't scrape the bottom. All right, so these are super hot. So let's get this over here. Now, again, for the sake of brevity and for the sake of getting this done before 10 o'clock tonight, I'm going to sacrifice my hands to this chicken. Now, a little kitchen trick that they like to say works, which it only kind of does, is when you're pulling a hot meat, Jesus, you want to double your gloves. This gives you a little bit of protection. And when I say a little bit, that's exactly what I mean. Just a little bit. It makes it hurt not quite as bad, but let me tell you, still fucking hurts. There's no way around it. It just sucks. It's still gonna suck. It's still gonna hurt. It's still gonna burn. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and touch it as little as possible. So I'm just gonna pull the bone out. Now the thing with chicken thigh, which is what I love about it, is it's very easy to pull apart. There's not any secret bones in there like a leg or anything. So I'm just touching it as little as possible. The thing that we need to get rid of, which I'm gonna use a tong too because it's so damn hot, are these little cartilage parts, which I don't like. Some people do eat them. I do not. I do not like them. I do not like green eggs and ham. Sam I am. So I'm going to pull these little pieces and then I'm just going to check to see if it's here. And frankly, I'm probably going to get it in the thing. But because it's so well cooked, I don't really need to worry about breaking it up or anything because I'm just going to stir it and that's basically going to do what I want. So we're going to pull. I'm gonna pull the bone out like that. Now, see, so I got the little cartilage part here on that end, but then this end is missing. So I know I got to search for it. Luckily, it's easy to find, and it, because again, so well cooked, comes right out. There it is. Done. So flip this guy over, pull the bone out, try and pull the meat off around it without burning yourself too bad. Cartilage part, get rid of that. If you are feeling extra cheap, which sometimes I am, not tonight to be honest, you could save these bones and add them to a stock. I don't know, maybe I am feeling that cheap. We'll see. Probably won't do it with you guys, but I might do that. So okay, so there we go. There's those guys, and now let's do the last one here. You see, because we cooked it so well in that pressure cooker, it just falls apart, man. And that's exactly what we want. You know, when you're braising meat, you don't necessarily want it to fall apart this much, which is why the Instapot doesn't have 35 minutes on it. It's why it has 25. But for something like this, where we just want it to fall apart quickly, which frankly is also something we're going to do later in this week. We're going to make some enchiladas and tacos. Some tacos first and then enchiladas later. And we do want it to fall apart pretty easily. So we're going to do that then. So now we have our mix. We're just going to mix this in. I added the peas, which I don't believe I said. But again, I'm doing this gently. I don't want to stir up all that burnt shit on the bottom. A little bit's fine. Let's see. How bad is it? So it's not, there's a burnt and then there's burnt. So this is like burnt. It's not ruined. You know, it doesn't taste smoky. It doesn't taste messed up. And like, it's just, I don't know if I can show you this, but like, yeah, see, it keeps going. And I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so we're mixed in here. Trying not to get too much of that burnt in there. All right. Now, we know the seasoning is good because we already tasted it. I don't need to taste it again. So we're just going to add this right in there like that. And this is just a 9x9 pan. You can use whatever, however much you're making is fine. You know, if you want to do a pie pan with it, that's cool too. All right, so what I'm saying is you see how that, it's burnt, but it's more brown than black. So like we're okay. That's why it's smoky and fucked up. But at the same time, I really want to limit how much of that is going into the final dish. You know, I really don't. Just because it's not completely foobarred doesn't mean that it's okay to add. You know, we still don't want that quality of food. You know, so okay. So I'm just throwing this out here. Things. Yeah. Wasn't able to avoid it. Just a little gravy. Just a little gravy. All right, so here we go. So this is all over here. We got our pan here. Oven's been hot. We're gonna take, again, for the sake of brevity, we are using pre-made biscuits, and there is nothing wrong with that. They aren't the best, but that's fine. You know, they work. It's good. It's fine. For something like this, it's fine. I have no problem with pre-made biscuits, pre-made pie doughs. You know, homemade is without question leaps and bounds better. But oh Jesus, thought I got shot for a second. My fucking heart is beating. Usually doesn't do that. All right, So for something like this, it's really not a big deal. So I'm going to save 1 because I need 9 and we have 8. So 2 of these biscuits are going to just be a little small. So they go right on top of the gravy like this. So boom, boom, boom. Nice and easy, nothing crazy. I mean, this is a super easy recipe. It's not, I mean, this is like high-end white trash, I'd call it. But it's still white trash. Like, if you watch The Crown, like, yeah, they're royalty, but let's be real, they're fucking white trash. Like, I mean, I swear to God, you put what they're talking about on a Jerry Springer show and you wouldn't even know the damn difference. Fucking weird sleeping with cousins and shit, and like just the drama. It's stupid. So there's that. Now we're done there. Now, the last thing we're gonna do. Never done this before, but I think it's gonna make it better. We're gonna add some butter. Some butter on top here. Just a little dollop on each one. And what this is gonna, oopsies. And what this is gonna do, it's gonna allow some really nice browning. So I'm just gonna rub it in with my fingers. You know, they say, one of the sayings in kitchens that I remember learning right on is that God gave us the best utensil in the kitchen, and that is the human hand. And I'll tell you what, it is true. There's so much that we try to use other tools for that at the end of the day, it's like, just use your freaking hand. You're like, it doesn't matter. As long as it's clean, or if you're wearing a glove, it's fine. I can't tell you how many things I've used my hands to mix or whatever. Like, it's fine. Like, tell me exactly what's wrong with it, other than maybe you're weirded out by it. If it's just that you're weirded out by it, that's not a good enough excuse not to do it. If it's unsanitary, all right, I'm game. If it's dangerous, I feel you. But if it's just odd, get out of here. So, all right, let's set the timer for, what I want to do. No, I want to do, 20, God bless it. Anyway, I'm messing everything up here. Jesus. Okay, fine. Oven start. Lord almighty. We're going to go 18 minutes on the time. So let's, we got one more game in us. One more comp, and this should be done. And then we're done. Ooh, it smells good. I can smell them biscuits. Them biscuits. Smells good. Oh, it's done, too. Look at that. Look at that. She done. That's all it took. 18 minutes. Ooh, that's hot. Yes, in case you're wondering, I did just touch the stove with my hand. Jealous? Oh my God. Oh, dude, look at that. Look at that. Oh, stupid good looking. Jesus. All right, well, we got to let this rest for at least a couple of minutes. Here, let me see if I can show you. But look at that. Oh, dude. How jealous are you? You should be. If you're not, you should be. Here's the small ones, and you can't even really tell. It's fine. All right, we're gonna let this sit for like 5-10 minutes. So we're gonna do one quick play, and that's it. And then we're gonna try this. I can't frickin' wait. So damn good. And it is really late, so my wife and I are probably just gonna eat a little bit. I think that's safe to say. So let's, oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. How jealous are you watching me do this? If you're in the chat, tell me how jealous you are. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. All right, let's get my wife some chicken and biscuits. Now, once this cools down, it's actually going to set, so you can actually just cut them out like a casserole. Obviously, now it's hot, so you can't do that. But once it cools down, it's a nice little casserole for like leftovers and portioning. All right. Oh, my mouth is watering. Okay. Now, I'll be honest, we almost always like to eat this with some hot sauce. But let's just hear. Okay. Oh, look at this big piece of chicken. I cut it a little bit. Let's see. Oh, it smells fantastic. Oh yeah. Gravy's on point. Peas are nice and sweet. Got that nice crunch. Not overcooked. I mean, you can see they're perfectly cooked there. Wherever you want to see it. I'll try the biscuit. I know it's not homemade, but yep, fully cooked. You can see that it's fully cooked. It's not raw on the bottom at all. It was perfect cook time. Oh, the nice flaky, buttery. Just fantastic. All right, guys. That's it for me. Thank you if you were watching. Thank you if you're in the chat. This is the end of the stream. I'm going to eat dinner with my family. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again. And I'll see you on Wednesday.